Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
Saints had the day off on Thursday. They'll be back on the practice field on Friday. But when the Saints hit the practice field again, they will be without Andrew Dowell. If you missed it, the Saints placed Andrew Dowell on IR. That ends his season. So before it even begins, one of the linebackers that the Saints were counting on to take a giant step here won't even have the opportunity to get to the first preseason game. So placed on IR. Cat Terrell and others, everyone had it last night, and that is just a really gigantic blow. It's a knee injury. Dennis Allen said after practice he didn't think it was going to be a huge issue, but apparently it was. And there are times, I'm not saying that this is what every team does or is common, but there are times where if you're trying to stash a player, you can put them on IR in hopes of just letting them grow and develop for another year and not taking up a roster spot. This is not the case with Andrew Dowell. Dowell's a guy that has been a reliable special teams player and a backup at a position where you are now paper thin. We came into this season talking about linebacker because you've got Demario Davis, Pete Werner, who in 2 years has not played a full season, and then nothing. Nothing but guys that have been backups and special teamers and part-time players. And if you look at your linebackers from a year ago, Demario Davis led the team in tackles with 109. Tyrann Mathieu was second, then Pete Werner was third with 80 tackles. So two of your top three tacklers were your starting inside backers. It's what you would expect. Next was Caden Ellis, 2 tackles behind Pete Werner with 78. It's a really good player. Well, Caden Ellis is in Atlanta now. You let him walk in free agency. After that, you got to go all the way down to Zach Bond, who had 16 tackles a year ago. After Zach Bond, Chase Hansen had 9, and Andrew Dowell, who you just lost for the year, had 7. My point is, you ain't got nothing at linebacker behind your top 2 guys. Nothing. Look, could Nephi Sewell step up and become a really good player? Sure, he could. Could DeMarco Jackson, who's one of those guys that got it, air quotes, redshirt year a season ago as a rookie, could he in year 2 step up and be a really good player? Could he? Yeah, he could. Could Zach Bond finally realize the potential that made him a 3rd-round pick out of Wisconsin? No, I'm not going to go there. He's just not a fit for this defense. So what are you left with? You're left with, you better go sign a linebacker. Now, maybe it's a thing where, you were here earlier this week, this is before the Dowell injury, I made a hard push to say the Saints need to go sign Zach Cunningham. Cunningham had an amazing start to his career with Houston. Houston was a dumpster fire as they were tanking there. Zach Cunningham ended up getting suspended and then cut. He finished last season in Tennessee with the Titans, and he's a free agent right now. He's 28 years old. He was the NFL tackles leader in 2019. That's a dude at 28 that can still play. Put him in a good culture locker room with good veteran players like Demario Davis, Cameron Jordan, Derek Carr, and I feel like he'd assimilate really well. That's a guy that is sitting there unsigned. Go sign him to an approachable deal. I mean, Miles Jack's 27 years old. He's still unsigned. I mean, Kyle Van Noy's a bit older. He's 32 years old, but it's another inside linebacker that's still available. You got to go sign somebody. You have got to add somebody. I mean, your options are you go sign someone who's available right now. You wait until roster cuts to see if you can find someone off the scrap heap that you could pick up that you have a good report on, or you make a trade. Are you going to trade draft assets or something like that for a linebacker who can come in and give you some depth? But whatever you do, like, you cannot, if you're the New Orleans Saints, you cannot proceed into this season with your linebacker room as is. You have got to add somebody at that position. I'm not going to pretend to know what Mickey Loomis is thinking right now and Dennis Allen are thinking. But I mean, what I mean is, I don't know where they're going to go. Are they going to call Zach Cunningham? I don't know. Why not? They're really good players. Of the available free agent linebackers, he's the best one. Call that dude. What would it take to get him in here on a one-year deal? One-year prove-it deal. If no one else is calling. What kind of deal could you do if you're trading for a player? I don't know. Leave that to Mickey Loomis. But one thing is absolutely for certain. Like, this isn't even... you know how you say, like, there are musts, there are needs, and there are wants? Well, like, this isn't a want or a need. This is a must. You don't have the option of going through the rest of this camp and preseason without adding a linebacker before the year. Like, you've got to add a linebacker. I would have said, hey, look, a lot of you asked about Quan Alexander. Quan is now signed with Pittsburgh. And I get why. He had been with the Saints, and he and Demario Davis are really good in tandem, but the Saints made up their mind on Quan Alexander. They signed him to a contract extension after he ruptured his Achilles. They traded for him. He tore his Achilles on Christmas Day against Minnesota. An incredible job rehabbing, re-signed him back for the start of next year. Elbow injury, misses the bulk of the season. They're like, we're done. They're done with him. That's fine. The LSU Tiger, the former LSU linebacker I would have wanted him to sign, is Deion Jones. Well, now he's in Carolina. So you missed out on that one this week. I don't know who it's going to be, but they got to go get a linebacker. I'll be fascinated to see who they add, but they're going to add somebody. Andrew Dowell on IR. His season's over. We've talked plenty also about the interior offensive line. And, man, the Saints got a conveyor belt going into their facility right there on Airline Drive. They added another one on Wednesday night. Chuck Filiaga, who started his career at Michigan, played in 39 games. As a graduate, transferred to Minnesota. So he played the 2022 season with the Gophers and started all 13 games at right guard. So he's a guy that can play left guard and right guards, played both left guard and right guard. Went undrafted, was picked up by the Packers. The Packers cut him, and now the Saints picked him up off the waiver wire. 6'6", 321, again, a rookie. I'm not sitting there telling you this guy's going to make the team, but you need bodies there on the interior. I mean, you've already gone through this camp. In your 7 practices into camp, Trey Turner's lost for the year. Andrus Peat has a quad strain. Calvin Throckmorton has an elbow injury. And we saw Trevor Penning miss a day because of a foot injury. Those are all interior. Well, I guess Penning is trying to win the left tackle job, but can play on the interior. I mean, that's Turner, Peat, Throckmorton. 3 of your interior linemen have all suffered injuries so far in the first week of camp. That's not even counting Trevor Penning, who missed a day with the foot injury. So that's 4 offensive linemen that have suffered injuries. One of your interior players, Trey Turner's lost for the year. So, yeah, I mean, they just have it's like a production facility. They turn the conveyor belt on. They're just spitting out used, washed up, or newbie offensive linemen to see who can give them camp body reps and who can maybe give them some depth, hoping eventually you hit on one. Maybe it's Chuck Filiaga. Not holding my breath, but that's the newest name that the Saints have signed. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.